Better late than never, they say, and I think we took that to the absolute extreme when doing our race report for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's the Friday afterwards, but we didn't have time for various reasons, so we decided to do it now. We probably won't get many views for this, but I don't think we're that bothered at this point, really. But the Spanish Grand Prix last weekend, Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, won by Lewis Hamilton, who had an epic strategy battle for the lead with Max Verstappen, which was only resolved 6 laps towards the end of the Grand Prix. 60 laps out of 66, Lewis Hamilton overtook Max Verstappen to take the lead and claim his third win of 4 races in the 2021 season. It was, for what we predicted to be quite a boring race, actually quite a good race, wasn't it, Dylan? I think it was one of the best Spanish Grand Prix we've had in a while.
It was very entertaining, as most people have referred it to Hungary 2019 all over again towards the end. Yeah, it was a much more interesting race than I was expecting, with some good battles for once, instead of just going around in circles for about 66 laps.
Yes, going around in circles 6 laps. That is certainly what it felt like some years. But it was a good strategy battle. Yeah, Hungary 2019, Mercedes did pretty much the same thing to Verstappen, where they brought Hamilton in for a 2-stop strategy, and then he just went on a charge, overtook everyone, caught Verstappen up at a rate of knots, about like a second a lap, and then overtook him right towards the end. And Red Bull didn't seem to do anything to block him off. They could have done if they'd have pitted just before Hamilton's second pit stop, but they didn't. They stuck to the one stop, and ultimately it cost them the win. Red Bull really showing that the Mercedes strategists are better, and we have seen that in the past. The Mercedes strategists really do know what they're doing, and they don't often get it wrong. They don't often throw things away. But Bottas was one of the people who was throwing things away, it seems. He got P3, but only just, and was stuck behind Leclerc for quite a while. And I think that it's his 5th year at Mercedes, and he's been with Hamilton all the time. I know he's a hard teammate, etc., etc., but to be honest, I don't think he deserves that seat. I don't think he's proven himself to be worthy of driving the fastest car on the grid. What do you think, Dylan?
I think Bottas is worthy. It's just that he's not aggressive enough. I think if he was to be a bit more aggressive, he'd be pretty good. But I do think he's still quite a good driver. I don't think he'll stay here for Mercedes next year. They'll probably bring up George, or if they find somebody else, then they'll take his place. But I think this could be his last season here.
Yeah, he's had 5 seasons at Mercedes since 2017, ever since Rosberg left, and he hasn't won the championship. He's only got, I think, 9 or 10 wins, which it's quite a few wins. It's about the same as Verstappen, but in a Mercedes, you'd kind of be hoping for more, and maybe even a world championship. He's kind of always.
He is the second driver.
He is the second driver, no matter what Toto says. Yeah, I'd agree with you there, Dylan. He is there to support Lewis, as we saw in the Spanish Grand Prix, where Valtteri was asked to let Lewis pass. He didn't really, he held him up for a bit, but I don't think Lewis was that bothered. He got past in the end, and after all, he won, so I don't think he can complain, really. And other people who were not really able to complain were Ricciardo and Alpine F1 team as a whole. Daniel Ricciardo seems to be on the up. He had quite a tricky start to McLaren. At McLaren, he had some pretty poor qualifying and some pretty poor races, but good finish. I think he came P6 in the Grand Prix, which was quite good considering that McLaren didn't seem to be that fast at the Spanish Grand Prix, with Lando Norris in P8 as well. So I think Ricciardo and Alpine as well, they were challenging the Ferraris and the McLarens quite consistently through the weekend. So I think that Ricciardo and Alpine and Ocon and Alonso certainly proving that they are worthy of their seats in that team. And really, we saw two drivers being very different. Very, very aggressive Max Verstappen. It was a good move into turn 1, wasn't it, Dylan? It wasn't. There was no contact, and I just think it was completely fair.
It was very close. Yeah, it was a very fair move with Max going down the inside, giving Lewis a squeeze. Did look like they touched, but they just missed each other, so it could have ended horribly for Lewis, with his wing probably being chopped off. But luckily, he had just enough room to back out and managed to keep intact. So I think it was a very good move from Verstappen. He's always seems to be quite good off the mark compared to Lewis, so I think Lewis will have to work on his starts a bit more for Monaco if he wants to try and stay winning.
Yeah, Verstappen starts do seem to have been very good this season, unlike Bottas, who actually got overtaken by Leclerc on the first lap in the Ferrari, a car that's considerably worse than the Mercedes and the Red Bull and the McLaren, really. It's about the same as that, so Yeah, Bottas, as I said earlier, I don't think he's really deserving of that seat in Formula One. But what we need to do now is compare our predictions to what actually happened in real life. So, in qualifying, Lewis Hamilton took pole position and Max Verstappen got P2, with Valtteri Bottas in P3. A very standard qualifying result. And for once, and I'm quite surprised at this, I actually got that all right. And unlike that, unlike normality, Dylan didn't do so well. Dylan, what did you predict would happen?
I predicted Hamilton, Bottas, Sainz, and I only got Hamilton. Bottas wasn't quick enough to beat Verstappen to P2, so he was in P3. And Sainz, I can't remember where he was, but I don't think he was in the top 5, so I did not have a very good one this time. I was being a bit more wild compared to what I usually am, and Ed was just being a bit more boring.
Yeah, that's certainly one way of putting it, isn't it? Yeah, you were being a bit more eccentric, or so to speak, with how you predicted it, especially with that sign. So Mercedes 1-2, they do have what looks like the best or the second best car on the grid, so not out of the realms of possibility. But moving on to the race predictions and results, Lewis Hamilton obviously took the win with Max Verstappen in P2 and Valtteri Bottas in P3, something that did not change from qualifying. And if you just took a look at that, you'd think it was a standard Spanish Grand Prix, but obviously, as we mentioned earlier, it wasn't really a standard Spanish Grand Prix with plenty of excitement up and down the field. And I predicted Max Verstappen would get the win, Lewis Hamilton would come second, and Charles Leclerc would come third. That was all wrong. That's normal for me. And Dylan, what did you predict?
I predicted Hamilton to convert his pole into a win, which I got correct, but then Bottas came second, I predicted, and Verstappen to get P3. But unfortunately, it was the other way around, so I only got 1. So overall, I got 2, and Ed got 3, so he beat me by 1.
By 1, yeah, just. But for once, I take the win in the predictions, and those are our predictions. And overall, as I said, it was a very, very good Grand Prix. And I'd say there were some brilliant battles up and down the field. There was a good pass by, I think, it was Leclerc on Bottas. Yes, round the outside. I think he did a great start after Yuki Tsunoda's retirement, after the safety car restart, something that we didn't really mention. Yuki didn't have a brilliant weekend. Doesn't seem to be performing as well as he was at the start of the year, being a bit less aggressive, and his engine just turned off on lap 10, was it, Dylan?
Lap 9 it was.
Yeah.
I think it was about to be lap 10, but it was lap 9 when he died.
Yeah, his engine just cut out. AlphaTauri didn't have a great day because although Pierre Gasly did score 1 point in P10, he got a penalty for going too far forward in his grid slot at the start. So basically he was past the line where he was supposed to stop. But he managed to do a good recovery drive and go from a penalty to points. And there were some brilliant battles up and down the field, especially towards the end of the Grand Prix, where the two-stop guys seemed to catch up the one-stoppers. And there were some good overtakes, especially by Pierre Gasly, going round the outside in places like turn 13, turn 14. Places you really don't expect to see drivers going around the outside of at the end of the lap on bits that you just don't overtake on in games or in real life. But he did it, and it was made for some pretty exciting racing action throughout the Grand Prix after that battle between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton had died down, and we have 6 laps towards the end. But yeah, as we said, a very good Grand Prix, and one that we, I think, thoroughly enjoyed watching with that strategy battle between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. Next week, we are at Monaco for the Monaco Grand Prix. Perez says he wants to take the win, though both Dylan and I doubt he will be able to. But will Max Verstappen be as good, and will Mercedes be able to be on the pace of Red Bull, or the other way around? Join us next week to find out. But for now, I've been Ed.
And I've been Dylan. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.